It's that time of development again. Welcome to KSP News, the 1.0.5 edition. Wait, don't leave. This is more than a bug fix. Let's start with contracts. First, there's contextual contracts. What does that mean? It means the game will use information about what you have launched to give you contracts. Instead of a million contracts to start a third orbital base around the moon, you'll get a contract asking you to add a new module to the moon base, or move a satellite to a different orbit, or stuff like that. Second, the part test contracts have been overhauled. Parts now define where and when it would be reasonable to test them, no more testing wheels in space, and contracts are generated from this data. On top of that, rather than having a narrow window of parameters to test a part in, there will instead be basically tiers of accuracy, and you get a higher prestige from coming closer to the goal test environment. This should make part test contracts a little less tedious and make more sense. No more testing a wheel in orbit. Finally, the world's first contracts are being separated from the rest of the contract system. Instead of having completed various altitude and orbit goals in your contracts, you'll have one view that shows what achievements you have made and what you've got for them. You will be rewarded for these whether or not you take a look at them instead of having to sign up first. Okay, I know what you really want to hear about. New parts. This update is mostly spaceplane themed when it comes to the new parts. We have a variety of new engines and redesigns to a few older spaceplane parts. Along with this, we have a new vectoring rocket engine designed for space shuttles, appropriately enough, called the Vector, and a new radiator panel. The engines though? First we have a tiny one called the Juno, for when the basic jet engines are just a bit too big. Second, there's the massive Goliath, for when everything isn't big enough. A giant turbofan that can be stack placed for whatever insanity you have planned. And then there's the Panther, my personal favorite, a new vectoring engine that rates somewhere between the basic jets and turbojets, designed for fighter building. Along with that, we have the old Aerospike engine getting a facelift, and the Mark I cockpit, and the Mark I fuselage intake, and the small intake, and the old jet engines. There's also a brand new crew cabin, and a Mark III cargo ramp. On top of those, we have improved heat dynamics and hydrodynamics. Yes, that means you can build boats and seaplanes properly now. No more relying on intakes as pontoons. Additionally, there's an EVA navball cooking up, and the KSpedia, which is an encyclopedia of KSP knowledge, similar to an old community design I used in a previous news video. As always, there are details that I left out, so head on over to my notes in the description to read up, and also to see the sources where I pulled all this information from. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in space. 5 edition. Wait, don't leave. This is more than a bug fix. I'm gonna start that over. The 1.0. It's that time of development again. Welcome to the KSP News. That 1. You'll get a contract. And contracts are generated to... First, contracts have being instead of having This update is mostly a spaceplane themed when it comes to... This update is mostly spaceplane... This update is mostly spaceplane... This update is mostly This update is mostly spaceplane themed... This update is mostly spaceplane themed, along placed are the new... and the Mark I fuselage, and the Mark I cockpit, and a Mark III hydrodynamics, and an EVA... No. And the KSP... I don't like the way I said that. Hydrodynamics and EVL... EVL? This means that... can build boats... Heat dynamics improved intakes as pylons. No more relying on intakes as pontoons now. And the KSpedia. And the KSpedia. And the KSpedia. Done.